Rev up your engines! Well, Ford's changed their tune. They're upping the production of the F-150 Lightning, the electric pickup trucks. They said they were going to make 40,000. Now they say in the next year or so they're going to make 150,000. Now they're using the plant in Dearborn, Michigan. As they say, they make 1 million F-150s a year, so scaling up production of them they think isn't that hard to do. But how many people are actually going to buy these things? They're, of course, saying they're pushing it commercially. Well, I've talked to commercial friends of mine. They said they'd never buy an electric pickup until they're proven. Their business is on the line. If they get stuck somewhere and it's broken, no one can fix it, or they run out of electricity and they can't get the job done, they're not going to be happy campers. A lot of guys are using their trucks commercially. Like in Clarksville, Tennessee, they're building houses all over the place. When they're building those houses, they don't have electricity. They're building houses from scratch. How are they going to recharge the truck while they're working? They can't, because there's not even electricity where they're going to be. Guys take trucks commercially all over the place. There may not be places to charge them up. They may break down and have problems, like Tesla did. Remember, every single Tesla ever made has been recalled now, at least once. Let's see if people actually do buy the things, how they hold up over time, and not just jump in and say, here we are, we're going to make them like no tomorrow. Because it's a radical change. It's not like they're comparing it to Ford in the early 1900s. Okay, yeah, and they had a radical idea the way they mass-produced cars. Then when Ford was the first one to mass-produce V8 engines, they had V8 engines before Ford did, but they never mass-produced them at that level, making them that inexpensive to buy. And in the beginning, Ford actually had problems with those V8 engines that they mass-produced. They fixed them eventually, but that wasn't radical. There's still gasoline or gas pumps all over the place. This is a radical change. I spent my life fixing vehicles. I know what guys who drive pickup trucks are like. I don't think they're going to fit into this electric thing that fast. Now, they claim they're going to start at $40,000. The general work ones will start at $53,500 with the stuff that guys want on them. So they claim they're going to sell it for, and what they actually sell it for is another matter entirely. And they might be pushing the envelope a bit too fast. They've never done it with electric cars before. There's no infrastructure to charge them. There's no infrastructure for stations where they can charge them. The power's got to come from somewhere. Where's that going to come from, right? Just magically, we'll build them and we'll worry about the rest later. That's kind of the American way. 151515 says, is a 2014 Subaru BRZ a good car? I want to get one. I want to get the 6-speed standard, do some mods. I was wondering, how long do they last? Well, here's the thing. They're pretty well-built cars from the get-go, from the beginning. But you're talking about buying one that's 8 years old. What did the previous owner do? Let's say you buy it from a guy who's middle-aged, had some fun, probably be a good deal, right? You buy it from a young kid, probably a stupid idea, because they probably beat the heck out of it and there's nothing left of the thing. That's the problem. Now, you're serious about a car like that, you got to pay a mechanic like me serious money to check it out. It's not just going to be plugging a scan tool. We would take all the spark plugs out, do a wet and dry compression test of the engine. That's the first thing we do, because if the engine was worn out, you don't buy it unless you want to rebuild the whole engine. Now, the advantage is 6-speed. They're good transmissions. Just drive it around. If it shifts and goes good, you know it's good. There's nothing hiding because it's not an automatic with all the computer controls and all that crap on it, right? The engine, you got to get checked out by a good mechanic who can test everything. Wet compression, dry compression. I would even, if I was buying one of those, I'd take a sample of the oil and do an oil sample analysis of it. You get kits, they can tell you in 2 days, and they might say, oh, look, this engine's all worn out by what's in the oil. Don't even think about buying it. So you're going to buy one of those, you got to do a lot of testing before you buy it used. Matt Logie says, I want your opinion on hybrid Honda Accords. I bought a 2022 Honda Accord Touring Hybrid. I commute 50 miles a day. Did I make the right decision to get the hybrid over the regular? The early Honda hybrids I was not a fan of because they went their own way. They went the kind of hybrid like a submarine had in World War II, where Toyota's hybrid was a different system. Well, now the Hondas have gone more towards the Toyota system, and they're much better than they used to be. Now, whether you made the right decision or not depends on one main thing. How much actual highway driving do you do at highway speeds versus stop and go city? A hybrid is a complete waste of time if you do a lot of highway high-speed driving. So if you're driving 55, 60, whatever for long distances, you're wasting your money on a hybrid. Just a regular one's perfectly fine. It's when stop and go is when they get the phenomenal advantage over a gasoline engine. Now, let's say if you lived in Houston, well, maybe you commute on a highway downtown, but the commutes are so jammed that you're going 5-10 miles an hour. In that case, a hybrid is a really good idea. But if you're commuting 50 miles a day, and most of the time you're going 60 miles an hour, you wasted your money on a hybrid because you're not going to get any better gas mileage, and you'll never recoup your investment. Just realize that. They're great stop and go. They're phenomenal. Sometimes they can get more than twice the gas mileage of a regular car in stop and go traffic because they regenerate electricity. When you're going at highway speeds, they're just the same, so you're not saving any money at all. Samuel 50 says, my vehicle idles high and doesn't accelerate. It's a 1988 Ford Bronco. I drive it, it doesn't accelerate right. The RPMs go crazy, but when I stop, turn it off, and start it back on, it goes back to normal. What could it be? You have some type of electronic problem. The only thing shutting your vehicle off and then starting it over again is it resets the computer. So you have some type of electronic problem. Now, it's an 88. It could easily be the computer itself. They only last so long, and that thing's what? 34-year-old car. It's an old car. So it could easily be that. That's what I guess just from where I'm sitting. Also do stuff like, hey, pressure test the fuel pump. It's an electric fuel pump. Maybe it's getting weak. When it gets hot, stops pumping. That's easy to check with a pressure gauge. It could be that too. Or it could be any wiring that will start shorting out, and then when you turn it off, turn it back on, the computer starts over, and then it waits until it gets hot again, and then it starts acting crazy again. But it's obviously an electronic problem. That's the only thing that'll make it act crazy, and then you just shut it off, turn it on, and it stops doing it again. Just like your computer goes squirrely, right? What do? You turn it off, turn it back on again. Sometimes it starts working again. Gray says, is it worth buying and fixing a 2014 Chevy Sonic? My sister's looking at 120,000 miles for $2,500. The seller says it needs a fuel pump. We'll start with starting fluid. Is it worth buying and fixing? Chevy Sonics are rolling piles of crap. They're probably one of the worst cars Chevy ever made. And somebody says needs fuel pump? Have them put a fuel pump. Then buy it. Don't buy it with him saying it needs a fuel pump. You spray starting fluid and it runs and dies. It doesn't mean it's necessarily the fuel pump. It could be the fuel injectors not spraying fuel. It could be the computer being bad so it doesn't pulse the fuel injectors. That can get expensive. It could be the wiring system. It can be lots of things. Just because you spray it in and then it starts and runs and dies. Now, back in the day, if it was a carbureted car from the 1960s or early 70s, yeah. You spray it in the carb, it'd start and then it'd die. You're pretty sure, okay, it needs a fuel pump, right? And the fuel pumps cost $20 and then 2 bolts hold them on. But today, no. They're all electronic fuel injection. I've had many cars told to me that they'll start with starting fluids, and there was nothing wrong with a fuel pump. It was the fuel injection. Computer had gone bad, the wiring got bad, so it's not that simple. I would not buy it. Now, tell the guy, put a fuel pump, and I'll come by and buy it if it's running. You're not willing to do that, don't buy it, because it could be a lot deeper of a problem than what they say. So many people selling cars, oh, it only needs this. Well, then why don't you fix it and then sell it, you know? You got to be logical when you're buying a used car. Well, GM's worried about Ford making everything electric, so now GM confirmed they're going to make an electric Corvette. The only thing is, they don't say when, they don't even say what's going to happen, what's it going to be like, right? They said, well, we might have a hybrid one too and a pure electric one, but that's all they're saying. Now, if you saw the little video, they have an experimental one they had at the Bonneville Salt Flats, and you can see that it was all-wheel drive because all the wheels are spinning, but you saw the front wheel spin first. So the one that's there is probably a hybrid with a V8 engine running the back wheels. That's probably what they're working on now, but there's no dates, there's no data. Everybody's jumping on that bandwagon. I can't wait till some of the wheels fall off the bandwagon and then see what happens to the people riding in it. Rigatoni the Tiger says, will the brand new Honda Civic Type R last me forever? I like to drive fast. You think the Civic will last forever if I take care of it? Depends on if you keep from wrapping around a tree. Those things are really fast, and they're really well made. Now, it depends on how you drive. Any fast car, if you rev it to the rev limiter as fast as you can all the time, it's going to wear out faster. It doesn't matter who makes it. Now, if you rev that up the same amount that you revved up, say, a Chevy or a Chrysler, the Chevy or Chrysler would break long before the Honda. But of course, eventually the Honda would break too if you drove the heck out of it. Those things are so hard to get a hold of. The prices are going so high. If you do buy one, and let's say you get tired of it, you could probably sell it, maybe even make money, because they're real collector's items. Of course, anything will wear out eventually, and the harder you beat it, the faster it's going to wear out. Now, let's say you're not going to drive much more than 80, 90 miles an hour. hey, it probably will last forever. But if you're pushing it to the top end all the time, of course, it will wear out faster. But if you want a car that drives fast, those are made to drive fast, and they can take it. As long as you don't wrap it around a tree. I mean, they're so fast, no stability control is going to save you from a stupid move. Depends on where you're driving fast, too. If you do it on a racetrack, that's one thing. You do it on the street, and that's a big mistake. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.